Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about bow builds, something positive from the patch notes, and how they actually got buffed by quite a bit. And that goes especially for sort of these league starters or lower budget bow builds that just got a lot more on the passive tree that they had in the past. Mainly, Ele builds just had it rough, especially at league start, because the scaling was pretty bad. We're going to talk about GMP and the necessity for it, and that kind of got alleviated quite a bit. We're also going to talk about an absolute crazy thread of hope that you can now have, and we're also going to go into some of the Vaal skills in just a second. First up, I want to address the one thing that it's kind of a known issue, but it's something that I really want to drive home about these changes, is that you don't necessarily need GMP anymore on a lot of bow builds with the new passive tree. Now, for people who haven't seen it yet, there's two new nodes on the tree that actually give an additional arrow, which has basically never been there. Number one, Master Fletcher gives bow attacks an additional arrow, and then also multi-shot counts for everything, but obviously also for bow attacks. And that is a big deal, because there is some skills like Tornado Shot where you want as many projectiles as possible, so you're still going to use GMP. But then there's other skills, like for example, some of the skills that got Vaal skills, Ice Shot and Lightning Arrow, that really don't. They only want GMP against packs, and then they don't really get anything from it, right? They have to use either Barrage support, which is super awkward, or they have to gem swap, which is one of the reasons why Tornado Shot is so goddamn strong, right? It's because Tornado Shot gets extra scaling from projectiles. It does more single target damage. It has more clear. That is one of the reasons. Now, why is that such a big deal? With a damage support, let's say you do 100 damage and it multiplies the damage by 35%, you get 135 damage. Pretty good so far, right? But with GMP, not only do you lose that damage slot, you also get a less damage multiplier. And that less damage multiplier is 26% less, so you're going to end up with 74 damage, or in total, almost halving your damage. Now, obviously, if you have insane gear, it's not going to matter. But for normal gear, right, you can't just do this nowadays where you have like half the damage against everything in a map, and then at the boss you gem swap. It doesn't work like that, because there's more healthy enemies along the way. There's Arch Nemesis rares that have bad mods. There is Betrayal encounters. There's the League Mechanic encounters, right? There is more tanky mobs. In fact, a lot of Arch Nem rares are tankier than the boss. So you're forced into gem swapping, which is just not really up to date. You can't really do that nowadays anymore unless you're just bossing, which most bow characters aren't. Or you gotta have a second 6-link, and that means not only are you going to lose 6 gem slots, which you could use otherwise, it also denies you to have a 6-link aura setup with Enlighten, maybe Empower in your body armor, and that is a lot of opportunity cost as well. And that is the reason why a lot of bow builds went with Poison early, kind of Poison versions. Obviously, Poison is good scaling, but a big thing is that GMP only gives you less projectile damage. That does not count for Poison. So you can get around this less damage multiplier. So on a Poison build, you wouldn't go from 135 to 74 damage. You would just go from 135 to 100 damage. So that's a lot more lenient. So in terms of damage loss, you would lose 45% damage here, 26% only here. That was a huge boon for Poison. It was not just damage scaling. And that is now semi-gone with these additional arrows. Now, sure, you can say greater multiple projectile gives you 4 additional arrows. If you have Awakened, even 5. But a lot of the time for some of these skills, it was kind of overkill. Now, obviously, for skills that scale with extra projectiles like Tornado Shot, there is no really overkill. It always will scale your damage. But at some point, you're clearing packs, right? You don't need, I don't know, 10 different arrows. So this opens up another support gem, which is incredibly value for a ton of people. Talking about the number 2 here is Vaal Skills. I really like what they did with both Lightning Arrow and Ice Shot, because both Lightning Arrow and Ice Shot were a skill that's fun to play, but it just does not have the staying power against bosses, and that has now changed. Now, we don't exactly know how good these are. As with a lot of Vaal skills, sometimes they're a little bit janky, right? And sometimes they're just absolutely insane. So we have yet to see how good Lightning Arrow, Vaal Lightning Arrow, or Vaal Ice Shot is, right? Fires an icy arrow and creates multiple mirages. Sounds kind of insane. And these skills really needed that single target help. They didn't need another clear skill for a Vaal skill. They needed the single target, and that's exactly what they got. So I gotta commend GGG for that, for sure. And also, Ice Shot and both Lightning Arrow were kind of held down by this whole thing with needing GMP but not really scaling with extra arrows. So these passive points are just incredible for those as well. Now, this is obviously even more scaling for Tornado Shot. So everything you could say for other skills not needing GMP is also an upside for Tornado Shot. Tornado Shot also just got 2 additional arrows. I'm sure all the Tornado Shot mains are already really happy about that. There was a nerf where synthesis quivers cannot have +1 arrow anymore, but that was a problem mainly for people who had 100 divines to buy a base. So while those people kind of lost some stuff, basically everybody else gained quite a bit. And number 4, I want to show you a really cool Thread of Hope location. I'm obviously not the first one who saw this, but this was the first one that came to mind for me. And this is basically going to be a mainstay in, I don't know, every single Ele Bow hit build to come. And this Thread of Hope was already kind of a thing, right? Like the Thread of Hope here, the large one that you put here, whether you come from this side or this side, doesn't matter. So you can allocate everything in this radius. Now, Master Fletcher, the new one that you really want, is bows, fire, and additional arrow. And this is really important because these nodes before used to be good, but now they're kind of a downside. It's only 5% attack speed, which you would normally have to path through, but it's not a downside because you can just take it with Thread of Hope. King of the Hill, absolute no-brainer. You can take +2 Pierce, which is really valuable on a lot of builds, or maybe even something with Forking, but usually it's going to be +2 Pierce, maybe even +3, depending on what you're playing. You get multi-shot as well, so you get basically +2 additional projectiles. There's also a new node here with Perfectionist, which is quite interesting. Most bow builds already kind of take Heart of Oak, so they're going to have 20, 28. If they path through here, 36% chance to avoid stuns. On top of that, you get the 30, so you had 66% already. If you can get 34 more, you're stun immune. And you get 5% movement speed anyways. For a 1-pointer, that is pretty damn legit. Then after that, I don't think you would want Wind Dancer. You get Aspect of the Eagle. You get Quick Step. You get One with Nature. And even down here, you get Primeval Force. Now, the last point here that I kind of forgot was Widowhail as well. This is a new bow that is incredibly interesting. It actually rolls higher. We saw 225% effect in the trailer. Increased bonuses gained from equipped quiver. Now, obviously, this is just strong on its own as like a stat stick. If you get a lot of flat damage from somewhere else, like you're a stat stacker, maybe even a strength stacker, stuff like that. If you have a good quiver to use, there can be something really interesting there. If you just have good stats, like +1 arrow, all right, you get 2 more if you have 200%, right? 30 crit multi, you get another 60%. You get another 25% attack speed. Everything that's in your implicit, maybe another +2 Pierce, 60% projectile speed. You can even get 150 life from your bow. It's pretty damn cool. But what you have to remember is there's also unique quivers. And there's 2 interesting ones in particular. The first one is Poised Prism. Now, this gives you extra scaling, for example, for deck stackers. It also gives you quite a bit of res. The one thing here is you can already get that stat on a bow, so why wouldn't you just get it on the bow? Well, the thing is that's true, but if you, for example, stacking all attributes, now we're talking. And I don't know if that's going to be a reality. I just think it's a cool idea. Then we also have Steel Worm, which is kind of like this Impale Quiver. And there's not really much other support for like sort of like a bow impale steel shard kind of build. But if you also have a bow that triples, basically, or triples or more than triples the effect of your quiver, that is just insane, right? So for example, skills fire 3 additional projectiles for 4 seconds after you consume a total of 12 steel shards. That is now going to be 9. You also get a ton of evasion and armor rating, which might be interesting. And then you do not forget that with uniques, you can, not easily, but you can corrupt into +1 additional arrow, which would give you another 2 from the bow, which is also true for Poised Prism, which makes it even more interesting. So yeah, I'm pretty damn hyped for bow builds going forward, especially Ele Bow builds. Some of these low single target clear skills might now actually get the love that they really needed with some Vaal Skills. Not needing GMP anymore might make it way more of an all-rounder alternative. I'm just really excited for what's about to come, and I'm definitely going to play around with some of that stuff. And since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.